Okay, so hi Sinitta, how have you? Well, firstly, how have you been doing over this last Well, it's coming up to a year now, isn't it? COVID year.
Yeah, it's literally like nearly a year. Do you know what? Okay, so I had it last
Yeah,
year
I heard about
early
this.
on,
Yeah.
but I had it before we really knew what it was. So
Mm.
in a way, that was good because I just thought I had a really, really bad flu, even though I felt my chest, something unusual was happening. Um, and by the time I was sort of getting over it, that's when I realized what I had.
Right.
Um, so that was a relief actually, because of course people were dying and it was all very mysterious. So, I didn't know, like, do you just suddenly drop? Do you get more ill? But anyway, since then, I've done a few tests. I have the antibodies, and I haven't gotten it again, which is great.
Mm, yeah.
And just sort of try to keep busy. Do you know what? To be honest, I got very bored this time around.
Yeah, I found the third lockdown has been tougher.
Yeah, the first time I think the novelty, and you kind of think, right. Also, you don't know if it's just going to be for a few weeks, right?
Mm,
So you think, right, okay, I'll do this, I'll do that. And so I was busy, I was eating properly, I was exercising. This time, I think the month of January was a bit of a write off. I
yeah.
think I just kind of had an extended Christmas.
Well, why not?
But it's March, it's the 1st of March, so pinch and a punch, first of the month.
Thank
And
you.
I feel like, really getting on, back on track now. February, I did half of February well, half of it not so bad.
Mm,
Now that's it. I've got to get my act together now.
yeah. Have you been able to stay, I guess, have you sort of been, physically, obviously with COVID, it sort of took it out of you, but sort of emotionally and mentally as well, have you had your ups and downs over this last year?
Yeah, again, this, like the first lockdown, I wasn't sort of depressed at all. I was kind of just trying to get well. And I'm quite good, I'm an only child, so I'm used to a sort of quiet home, only child and single parent family. So I grew up in quite a quiet home, um, used to being alone unless I was in a relationship. But I did worry about some of my friends who were just like, cannot stand their own company, do not like being alone, and were freaking out. So I did very well the first time, and I was kind of reaching out to others more to keep trying to help keep other people going. And so this January, I actually felt really depressed. I was just
Hmm.
sort of fed up. I was a bit lonely. Um, I don't watch a lot of TV, but I was even fed up with watching television. And you're just like,
Hmm.
how many episodes of what's that thing, Dinner Date, and
Oh yeah, first dates. Well,
yeah, dinner date, first dates. I mean, everyone's going on dates except me because I'm single as well. And I couldn't be bothered to cook properly because it's kind of like it's only me. And I just kind of went on a real kind of downward thing. And that's when I had to really pull myself together for February, because I thought, this is how it happens. It's like
hmm.
everybody sort of has, it's like having a pain threshold, isn't it? Where I thought I'm a naturally upbeat, optimistic person. It sort of took me all of last year to sort of get torn down, so that by mid-January I was just like, do you know what, I just can't. So I had to make a conscious effort, and I made all these promises and wrote all these things down to say I was going to do this, I'm going to do that. I didn't do half of it, but the fact that I was resolving to do something, so if I
Hmm.
was going to work out for half an hour, if I did sort of 10 press ups, I think, well, at least I did 10 press ups. And it was kind of like that.
Yeah. Do
Quite
you,
scary though, because I've never kind of really felt that thing where you're kind of looking around thinking, gosh, if I don't get a grip, I don't know how far down I'll slide.
Yeah. Do you think sometimes as well it's what you let into your circle with your mood as well? Because like sometimes when I'm watching the news, I can feel like what you can watch the news for half an hour, 45 minutes, whatever it is, and you have like COVID, Brexit, all that awful stuff that happened with George Floyd, and the conflict there was there. And
Oh,
like
the American elections. I mean,
yeah, yeah. I mean,
yeah.
you watch the news for half hour, 45 minutes, you do feel rubbish after you've watched the news.
Absolutely, and then of course, being black and the whole um, vaccine thing, it was like, worrying about and sort of it creeping closer to my, so it's coming close to my sort of age group now, like the 50s, and
Mm,
it's like, should I have the vaccine? Is this a sort of mass genocide? Because you're online and you're seeing all this
mm,
crazy stuff. Um, I just, normally not so paranoid, but like you said, you're just getting influenced by so much input
Yeah.
from different people, and it's all very convincing.
Mm.
So I'd be sort of messaging people saying, gosh, so what do you think about the vaccine? I guess we shouldn't have it, right? And people go, of course you've got to have it. I can't wait to have it. And then I'd message somebody else who'd go, no way, it hasn't killed me so far. So I don't need, and I was like, I don't know what to, just mass confusion as well, which doesn't
Yeah.
happen.
Well, I had the jab about last Saturday.
Oh,
And that's purely because I'm around working, tutoring some vulnerable people as well, whether it be Down syndrome, autism. So I got a phone call on Thursday and was like, "Oh yeah, do you want to come in for the jab?" And I was like, "Are you sure I'm allowed it? Because like I'm 31 years old." Like,
wow. But
yeah,
yeah,
I
when
felt a
you've got
bit, but I felt a bit bad for having it. But yeah, but I had one friend ringing me like, "Don't get it, like don't take this vaccine," like. And it's strange because some people are very strongly feel like there's some kind of sinister thing
yeah.
going on with it, don't they?
Well, people think that it's injecting what do they think, like trackers or something, so that
Yeah, the Bill Gates agenda.
I mean, I'm just like, and I'm thinking, gosh, if I was like 70, 75, maybe I wouldn't be so worried, and then it's like, oh, it's to cap your lifespan. So, you'll sort of die within the next 15, 20 years. I mean, just awful. But how are you feeling? I mean, you look great.
Oh, thanks. But I was like, I got told, like, 'cause I had the Oxford vaccine, and a couple of friends
Oh,
said to
yeah,
me,
yeah.
well, the Oxford one makes how I had it, and I felt a bit dodgy afterwards. I had it on the Saturday, all day Saturday, I was fine. And then Sunday morning, I woke up and I felt horrific on Sunday. Like it was, I can only describe it as feeling like it was the worst hangover. Like I
Oh,
was achy, head pounding, just
yeah.
like, yeah, really sort of felt just shut down for a day. And then by sort of Monday lunchtime, I rode it out and I was fine. But on that
Did
day
you have
after,
appetite? Did you sort of eat and drink? Did they tell you to take vitamins or anything, or just to rest?
no, they just said they just said like, they said, you might feel rough. As soon as you put, they give you the vaccine, and they say, oh yeah, you might feel rough for like after you've had it. So literally, they take the needle out and go, oh, by the way, you might feel rubbish over the next couple of days. And I was like, okay, that's fine. But they said like if it's like over a week to 10 days, maybe see GP then. But after a day or so, I was fine. But yeah, just the worst hangover. I just kind of felt like when you've kind of
Yeah,
had been in
yeah.
Magaloo for a long time and.
Yeah, I know that Magaloo feeling.
Oh yeah,
I know
definitely.
what you mean.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not too bad. And I have heard that that's the one, that's the favorite one. That one, although people said, okay, some people have told me the Oxford one has more side effects, but
Mhm.
it's more like a flu jab, the way it reacts to our bodies and everything. And
Yeah.
that the Pfizer, there's no side effects, but it's a newer sort of technology, or
Yeah,
what
it's
do you call
yeah,
it, medicology or something.
yeah, yeah, no, something like that. Yeah. I mean, how have your kids been doing with lockdown? Because I guess for them, it's like for young like teenagers and kids, it must be so. It's all like awful, like what they're sort of missing out on. I suppose it's been like a year for
Yeah,
them.
all especially, my kids are like 14 and coming into 15 now. So it's that age where you're finally allowed to go to the cinema or go a little bit, you've got a wider parameter of
Yeah.
freedom in the community and things like that. And of course, it's gone from that to completely locked down. So they've gone a bit crazy. They've managed not to kill each other, but also my kids bored. So it's been quite nice that they've had time together, because they board in different schools, but they're used to being in an environment that's fully children. So that's been challenging for them. But, they've been quite good with the online studies, apart from my daughter, who sees it as an opportunity to sneak onto Instagram and other things. You sort of take the telephone and then you realize they're so smart, that they're logging in. And it was only by chance a friend of mine said, oh, Mags is on Instagram at the moment. Shouldn't she be in classes? And I was like, how do you know? And she said, oh, she sent me a message asking me for a picture of her dog, of our dog. And I was like, what? And it was like 10 o'clock in the morning when she was supposed to be. So, but you can't really go too mad, because obviously as as a teenager, I'm sure I would have done the same if we'd had this kind of technology and circumstances then.
Yeah.
But equally, you want them to just, I don't know, GCSEs, all that stuff's going to start kicking in next year. So they've got to learn to study, haven't they?
Yeah, that's it. Have you had to do any sort of like teaching from home? Have you had to get your teacher head on, or?
Yeah, I have, but not too much, thank goodness, because I mean, I've been able to help with language. I'm good at English, history, but like maths, French, my kids are fluent.
Oh, great.
So, even when I try to help, it's like, thanks, never mind, next, and they they don't want my help. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know did you watch, obviously, because you've been in the Jungle, I'm a Celebrity.
Yeah.
Did you watch the sort of the version in the castle this past year? Did you catch up on that?
I watched a bit of it, and but I didn't watch all of it, which I was surprised because I thought I would have been more into it than I was.
Mhm.
I don't know why I didn't. I don't know why I didn't like it. Just something. I think maybe because I've had the actual jungle experience.
Mhm.
That I found I enjoyed it, but I enjoyed it like a different show.
Yeah.
To me, it was like a completely different show. They should have reinvented it and just called it, I'm a Celebrity, get me out of the house and be done with it, because you're kind of looking for the similarities and stuff.
Yeah.
But I liked the bits that I saw.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
wasn't compelled to watch in the same way.
Yeah. I mean, what was your experience like as a contestant in that show? Was it challenging? Was it just fun, or?
It was horrendous because I'm afraid of spiders. I mean, I'm afraid of everything that isn't kind of, four-legged and cute like this. She's not scary at all. Even cats, once they get big, I'm a bit like funny with. So I did this course at Regent's Park to help you get over arachnophobia. And I just thought, and it got to a point where I could let them touch my hand with a spider, which, I couldn't even be in the same building as a spider before, not knowingly. So I thought, oh, I should go to the jungle because this will help me be cured of all my irrational fears of insects and snakes and all that stuff. It didn't cure me, but it did desensitize me to the extent that if I was in the jungle, whilst I was in the jungle, if a big spider sort of walked across the ground in front of me, I wouldn't be freaking out, jumping, screaming, sweating, crying, trying to get away from it. I was able to calmly just watch it go about its business.
Mhm.
But as much as I thought, gosh, look at me, I'm healed. If a huge spider came across my floor now, I'd be upset about it. So it kind of, but I did the trials. I didn't say no to anything apart from laying inside a coffin and letting them fill it with, I knew they were going to fill it up with rats walking all over me because I'd seen it on TV before. And I thought, I just can't do that. So I'm a Celebrity, get me out of here at that point. But all the other things, I just kept going for it and going for it. They kept voting for me because, of course, they loved the fact that I was traumatized and messed up and hair estate and,
Yeah.
just like, but in a weird way, at the end of it, I did think I really enjoyed it. And I was really sad to leave when I was out. And I just love being outside. I never thought I could sleep outside. Like I'd never been camping or anything like that. The fresh air. I mean, the food was pretty grim, so I didn't miss that. But I loved the way you bonded as people, and I made really good friends with Fatima Whitbread. I can't say her name.
Oh yeah, I know who you mean. Yeah, but I probably
The
wouldn't be able to say.
Olympian. Yeah, I mean, you would never think that she and I would hang out, that she'd even be interested. I thought I'd be much too much of a wimp for her, but we kind of became this dynamic duo,
Mhm.
and I love that. I love being in Australia. Of course, the Versace hotel part was amazing,
Yeah.
but it's something that I don't regret doing, and I would do again, even though I know you can't do it twice, but if you could do it twice, I would do it again, and I'd try and be even better.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, one thing I do want to talk to you about is your faith. Your faith in God, because I'm a Christian myself.
Yay.
So I mean, and from hearing some of your story as well, I found it inspiring as well, because I sort of had my days where I was a bit of a wild child as well, and and I guess, like, I mean, how did your journey into you know, getting to know who God was and have a relationship with him start, I suppose?
Yeah, it was the funniest thing. There used to be something in Hello magazine, it might still be in there, but it was called the Panorama page. And it would be where they'd sort of go, and it was, you know, sort of altruism. And there was a picture of a child, I think in Sudan or something, a tiny child, it may have been about 2 years old, squatting, holding its head like this, you know, naked little black baby. And above its head was a vulture, a kind of not quite in swoop position, but kind of hovering, waiting to swoop. And as a Christian, you know that how they describe the devil as,
Yeah.
you know, sort of prowling, waiting to see who they can devour and all this kind of thing. And I didn't know all the scriptures at that point, even though I'd always read, you know, I knew Jesus, and you know, I had some faith. I wasn't born again and as knowledgeable as I am now. But I remember looking at that picture, and it upset me so much that I was kind of putting my hand over the child, almost wanting, like wishing I could protect the child from this vulture, this thinking all around there was just wilderness, and thinking, how far is this child going to get before it finally has to sleep or just dies, and that vulture's able to just take it and swoop it away. And it really, really got to me. And I called my mother sobbing and just sort of said, look, I've seen this picture, it's upset me so much. I don't think I'm meant to be a pop star. I think I'm meant to be like a missionary or something, going to help people, because I haven't been able to stop crying all morning. So my mother was like, well, you know, it's funny that you said that. Someone's dropped a tape through the letterbox last week, and it was music from a new church that's starting around the corner from me. I went to check it out, and the people seem really nice. Maybe you should come along. And I remember rolling my eyes thinking, oh, you know, thanks, Mom, but that, you know, I don't want to go to some funny church. I'm just so upset, and I just want to know about how, so I need to get information about how to become a missionary, but thanks a lot. Anyway, a week later, she said, you know, you said you'd come to this thing. I really want you to come to this church with me. You know, the people are really nice. And I was like, look, I promise I'll come sometime, but don't keep bugging me about it. I promise I will come one day and visit your little church. So finally, about another week later, I thought I better go to this church because she's going to keep asking me.
Yeah.
So I turn up, and I took my little dog. I had a different dog at the time. Took my little dog with me and thought, oh, it's going to be some nice little, you know, Church of England, sweet place. And it was a little kindergarten in Charing Cross. And there were about 15 people in this school hall singing. And I went in, and they were singing this beautiful song called I Surrender. And I sort of had arrived a little bit late and sort of scooched into one of the seats, loads of empty seats, and about 15 people, like I said, in there singing the song. The words of the song hit me. I ended up in floods of tears just listening to the song. And the next thing you know, I'm at the altar call in this little kindergarten, giving my life to Jesus, surrendering my life to Jesus. And afterwards, the pastor who turned up was a guy called Jared Kean, who'd come to plant a church in London from Australia. He'd come with his 2 young children with no money and just no real plan apart from, I'm going to plant a church in London. And he said, you know, I'm the pastor, I'm Jared. I understand you're a singer. And I was like, yes, you know, I'm a pop star, I'm a singer and everything. He said, well, we're looking for singers because we need a worship team. So will you join the team? So I was kind of like, you know, I'm very expensive and I don't think you guys could really afford me. And he said, no, we're not going to pay you, but I'll give you a cassette, take this cassette of songs, learn the songs, and then next week come in an hour early so we can practice, and then you can be the worship leader. So I was like, oh, you know, I don't think that this is something I'm going to do regularly. It was really nice, but I don't really get up Sunday mornings. I work late nights. I'm very expensive, as I said. I really don't think you'll be able to afford me. You said you can't afford me. And he said, no, but we're not going to pay you. You'll be singing for God, for Jesus. And I laughed and sort of said, okay, and just thought, I'm just going to take the cassette and go. And he doesn't know where I live. I'll never see him again anyway. Put the cassette in my car, listened to it all the way home. It turns out it's the first Hillsong album, Shout to the Lord. By the time I get home, I'm singing the songs. Like, I've learned them, I've played them twice, and I've taken the cassette inside, and I'm loving these songs. And I'm thinking, gosh, long story short, I turned up the next week, an hour early. Don't know what made me do it. Well, obviously I know it was God now, but I turned up, and he said, oh, before we start rehearsals, can you help set up the chairs and everything? And I'm like thinking, he really doesn't realize who I am. I'm sort of thinking, I'm Sinitta, the pop star. And he's like, yeah, that's lovely. Thank you for coming. And I'm like, okay, fine. So I set up the chairs, and he said, can you make sure the toilet's clean? Because if people come, we want the music. And I go and I look in the bathroom, and I think, well, the toilet, we're out of tissue paper. Oh, can you go buy some loo roll? Here's some money. So I go to the Cullens and I buy some loo roll, come back, and I'm shaking my head thinking, this is going to be hilarious when he realizes who I am, kind of thing. And we set up, and I get up there and I join in the singing. We rehearse and we sing, about 15 people are there. And he's preaching as if it's Wembley. He's like, Lord, and he says, we've got to get together. We've got to pray that this place is going to be so full, and all of this. And I end up, becoming one of the founder members of Hillsong Church, London. And I've just never left. I got all my teaching there. I got baptized. I got saved, obviously got baptized. I learned, I went to Bible college. This was 1994, 1994, yes. And, I went to Sydney and saw the Mother Church, and they were having this Christian conference in the Homebush Stadium. Mm-hmm. And I remember thinking, oh my God, this is what you're trying to do in England. I get it. And they dragged me up on stage, and I thought they were dragging me up on stage to say, look, Sinitta's in our thing. And it was actually, they brought me on stage and introduced me to the whole stadium. And he said, and this is Sinitta. She's one of the first fruits from the London church. And everyone sort of clapped and, hi, Sinitta. And they sort of got me to join in with the worship team there, which was amazing. Whole stadium, worshiping God. And, I just kind of got the vision and stuck with it. And it's now 2021. Yeah. And I think, in Hillsong, well, obviously not now, but it's one of the biggest meeting churches in central London. We've planted churches all over Europe and in America and everywhere. In fact, I don't know if do you know Gary Clark, who's head of Hillsong London?
Yeah, I know who he is, yeah.
He's just about to hand over the head of London Hillsong to Tim and Nicola, who used to be our youth pastors years ago when they came over, and they're coming back from Australia now to take over as the leaders of the London church.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. Sorry, that was a really long story.
No, that's great. No, I love listening to it. No, yeah, but no, it's it's really interesting. Just because as well, I think when I got baptized in 2019, so about 2 years ago. But it was a couple of years ago. I was sort of going to church, not really sure what I made of it, and kind of thinking, I remember some of my mates sort of making a joke of it. You as a Christian, you're too far gone. You can't, you can't be a Christian now. It's just you talk about those weekends in Magaluf. It's like you can't go to Christian, you can't go to church. But yeah, it's it. And I remember the first time I went to church. Just sort of, I remember getting in. I was hungover. I think I had sunglasses on. I just stood at the. It was quite, it was about 100 people or so at the church I went to. Just stood at by myself at the back of the room, not wanting to draw attention to myself. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that first worship song, I could feel it now. I just felt like there was a hand on my shoulder, like I was home and I was just, being welcomed back. And
amazing.
Yeah, and just amazing. Yeah, and just having that, and I remember the first time the pastor had no idea who I was, and I was just trying to not get involved at all. And the pastor, because I was really struggling in terms of just forgiving myself. I was looking around the room and thinking, I can never be like these people, all these really nice, friendly Christians. I can't be like this. And I remember the pastor, towards the end of the service, pointed at me, and I was like, I don't want to go up. I was just I tried not to make eye contact. I was just trying to look away, but I pretend I haven't seen him. But he wouldn't, he sort of came over and said, God wants me to tell you that, you know, he said that he died for all sins, not all sins except Lawrence's. And I was just like, oh wow, that's a really important, you know, that really touched me at that point. I was just like, yeah, I kind of need to get over myself, really.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's so lovely. The funny thing at Hillsong when we first started, it was just called the Christian Life Center. One of the things is, when my mother had been going for those 3 weeks before I came, she'd been telling them about me and how she has a daughter and all this, and they were all praying for me. They'd all been praying for me before they met me. So that was another thing as well, because when they sort of, you know, you stand and you sort of have a cup of tea afterwards, or I think we were having orange cordial or something, and chat afterwards, when I had fully intended to just flee, people were like, oh yes, you know, it's so nice you're here. And I realized I'd actually been prayed in, because they'd been, you know, you're Michael's daughter, we've been praying for you. And I think that's as well why it just kind of hit me. That's, you know, where you just think, wow, it definitely works, because I'd been to so many different spiritual things. I'd been to a Buddhist meeting with a gang of friends about a year before that. And Buddhism was really, really popular in those days. And lots of big stars, you know, Tina Turner, and, you know, Kabbalism was really big. And there were lots of sort of trendy meetings with trendy people going on. And I'd attended a few. And you know, at the Buddhist meeting, I remember just laughing hysterically, not at the people. And in fact, I didn't even know what I was laughing at, but the effect it had on my spirit was that I was uncontrollably laughing, like when you're in class and you know you're going to get into trouble, but you can't control it.
Yeah.
And I was sweating, trying not to laugh, because I didn't want my friends to think I was laughing at them. But the more they were chanting, the more I was just like, in the end, I had to sort of pretend I was having a coughing fit and just get out. But it was such a shame, because I really wanted to be part of it, like photographers, models, fashion people. And yet that when I went into that tiny little funny little church that wasn't even in a church, that was the effect that it, you know, I burst into tears and joined up.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
amazing. And I mean, you're from like myself, you're in the creative world, so you grew up in the
Mhm.
creative world as well. And you know, obviously in that world you meet a lot of, you know, I have a lot of friends that are gay and homosexual, you know, homosexual. And I remember a few of them would say to me, oh, you're Christian now, does that mean our relationship has to change? Like, you don't
Oh
agree with my
gosh.
lifestyle, you know? And I think there's a lot of stigma as well. And you know, there are some people at my church that have that opinion of, you know, homosexuality is wrong, but you know, I don't know if it's hard to sort of, I don't know how I feel about it, because like, you know, I don't think it's as simple as, you know, going to the gates of heaven to be with God one day and it being sorry, no gays allowed in here. I don't think it's not as simple as that. You know,
Yeah.
I wish I could do something, but you know, you knew the rules. You know, I don't think it's as simple as that. You know, I think we're all sort of judged individually in our hearts and our relationships with God. I think the most important thing is we know who God is and we have a relationship with Jesus. I don't know how you feel about it.
Oh yeah. I mean, this is like my sort of mission in life, really, is to reconcile the gay community to Jesus, because I think it's the biggest myth and lie that the LGBTQ plus community are exempt from heaven and church and God, because God made us all in his image. He made us all equal. He doesn't favor one child over another. All sin is equal to God.
Mhm.
We are all sinners. So, you know, I think it's because it does say in the Bible that same sex relationships or same sex is forbidden, but it also says lying is forbidden. Um, it says sex outside of marriage is forbidden. It
Mhm.
says coveting, you know, wanting something that belongs to someone else is forbidden. So basically, we all sin on a regular basis.
Mhm.
So why would um, a same-sex relationship be judged worse than lying or a sex outside of marriage, because they're in the same category of sin?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. And it's, you know, I mean, one of my best friend, whilst I was, you know, he was studying with him, I was the first person he sort of came out to, and he had a girlfriend at the time, and he
Oh,
came out, and yeah, and he came out as gay. And you know, he sort of said, you know, they're not even married yet, but like they're talking about getting married, him and his partner. Now he's with a guy. And, he said, I'd love you to be my best man at my wedding. And I mentioned it to a couple of people in my church. And it's funny, you get a couple of people that are just like, absolutely no, you cannot even go to that wedding, let alone be the best man. And then you get some people that I like, I like listening to their opinion, because I trust that opinion more and believe in it myself, where they say, well, no, I feel that Jesus put you in that position for your friend to be able to come out to talk to, and that's the position, he wants you to love that person. And it's like you say, just leave whatever judgment we have to come, leave that to, it's not our call at the end of the day, right?
Well, exactly. I mean, I'm actually ordained, and
Mhm.
and one of the things I want to do is to actually officiate in gay marriages, or same-sex marriages as well, because I think that we as Christians are called to be like Jesus.
Mhm.
And Jesus was all things to all men, and he often surprised people in the Bible, like when he stopped the adulteress from being stoned by asking anyone else, the first person who was guilt-free, to throw the first stone, and he was the only person still standing who was guilt-free, and he still didn't throw it.
Mhm.
And so I think, no, I think Jesus would say, that love is love,
Mhm.
that love is love, and that he would love that he loves that community as much as he loves us, the same way he loved the Gentiles as much as the Jews, and so on and so forth. And I think there's always a group of people trying to keep, historically, there's always one group of people trying to keep another group of people away from God.
Mhm.
And, I just think, God forbid that we as Christians become that group of people, because that would make us the biggest hypocrites of all.
Mhm. Yeah.
That we're supposed to do anything we can to reconcile all people to him. And if we're making a mistake, if we're mistaken, then I think God knows our hearts, and he puts the desires in our hearts, right? So if that's my desire, to bring the gay community to Jesus, he's put that desire there for a reason.
Mhm. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, when you sort of made that transition to, as Christian and ministry, like, something that I've personally found difficult sometimes is letting go of your past. I don't know if you've ever found that, like, in terms of, the wild child days, sometimes you kind of have those moments where, you feel guilty about behaviors, and you feel like you kind of look back and go, oh, what was I thinking? What was I doing when I was 19? I'm 31 now. It's like, I still think, what was I doing?
Baby.
Yeah, well, what was I doing when I was 19 years old? What was I thinking? You get those moments, but I don't know if is it hard to kind of sometimes for you to, was ever that challenging to kind of let that sort of old life go? Is it hard to kind of?
I was really lucky or blessed, because I was able to let it go quite quickly and quite abruptly. But I think when I first got saved, because I was quite young, I was like in my early 20s when I got saved. So I was still very young. I was still very impressionable. So when I initially got saved, I was very religious as well. And now I hope I'm not religious at all. I hope I just have a great relationship with Jesus, and, um, but I was quite religious. So I was very religious about my approach. Like I stopped smoking abruptly, and I wouldn't drink. I went very, very sort of against everything that I'd sort of done initially. And then I kind of realized that wasn't really, that wasn't real Christianity, that was a kind of judgment. I was kind of judging myself and giving myself these standards and these hoops to jump through
Mhm.
that would make me more Christian. And as I've matured, I've realized the only thing that's going to make me more Christian is being closer and closer and closer to God, and knowing God more. So I'm much more forgiving. And I kind of look back at those days and think, gosh, I'm so lucky. I dabbled with drugs. I'd go to nightclubs before I was legally old enough to go to them, and all these kinds of things that I sort of think, gosh, well, thank God I dodged the Leah Betts batch of ecstasy things, because, I wasn't like a big drug addict or anything, but, I was experimenting and trying things. And so I kind of feel like, wow, God, you had your hand on me even back then, because I did take crazy risks, just thinking I was having fun, but I was actually
Mm.
risking my life. And of course, I have teenage children now. So I'm like, it's just really interesting, because you just think, like my daughter, both my children have grown up in church at the London Hillsong. My daughter's now questioning all of that, because religion that's taught at school is not like RE or RK like when I was younger. It's religions of the world.
Yeah.
So even though I think it's good to understand all the religions, in a way I'm a bit disappointed, because it means at a young age she's already questioning Christianity and sort of saying, you know what, I think I might be more of a Buddhist, or I might be more into Taoism, or
Mhm.
or other things. And it's almost as if they're being taught that there are different gods rather than different
Yeah.
religions, because
Mm.
it's like, so I might believe this God more than the God you believe in. And I find that difficult. But the forgiveness I find easier. I'm harder on myself now, and things like, I'll go, okay, I'm not going to do this, or I need to really see things with God's mind and not my mind. And it's hard not to slip into being a bit too self-critical, because you've got to go, well, if God forgives me, who am I not to forgive myself?
Yeah.
Are my standards higher than God's,
Hmm. Yeah, that's a really good way to look at it. Yeah, I mean, you mentioned your teenagers there. I mean, you went through the process of adoption, right? When you were trying for children, and you went
Yeah.
down the adoption route. What was that whole, I suppose, process like of, and being a single mum that's got two adopted kids?
Well, the process was actually quite thorough. Um, it took just about a year, maybe just over. They like it. They say that it shouldn't take much more than a regular pregnancy, and that's from signing up and going to your first meeting about adopting. Um, Even though I was used to doing interviews and a lot, and talking to strangers and asking questions and things like that, I found it quite intrusive, because they're asking you things in areas that you're not used to having to divulge. But in the end, it was quite therapeutic, because they would ask you things like, well, did you experiment with drugs when you were a teenager, and things like that. And I'd be thinking, oh gosh, I shouldn't really tell them this, because they're going to find me unsuitable to be a parent. But because I was a Christian, I didn't want to lie about it either. So I was like, you know what, God, let your will be done in this. I'm just going to be completely honest. And if I found not to be suitable, then it's not meant to be. But what happened is, they took everything on board that I was saying, and they didn't judge me the way I thought they would. What they ended up saying was, actually, because you've had these experiences and learned from them, and your attitude towards them now, we actually think you'd be very suitable to be a parent, because when your children are teenagers one day, you have the experience to warn them, you know what the pitfalls are, you know what the temptations are, and all those things. And they were right, because I had stepchildren as well. And I remember my stepson wanting to talk to me rather than his father, because because I was like 10 years younger, and he thought that I would be a bit more liberal, I suppose, a bit cooler. And so we were in the car one day, and he said, I've been offered some weed at school. What do you think about that? And I said, oh, well, it's funny that they can get it at school. How do they get it at school? And he said, oh, I don't know, but a few of the older kids in there are quite cool, and they know people who know people. And so, stuff does get in, and now they're starting to offer it down to us as well. And it's probably, anyone listening, I'm not saying this is the answer to give to your kids, but the sort of person I was, and because of the experiences I had, my answer came out as well. When I used to dabble with drugs when I was younger, I was a very wealthy pop star. And therefore, the things that I was being offered was coming from, quite a sophisticated place, sort of quite high up the food chain. But as I understand it, drugs get cut, and the further down the food chain they go. In other words, if you had a pound of grass or weed, the dealer would cut it in half and then maybe mix in just weeds and stuff from the garden or whatever else, and then sell it on, and then he'd make a profit from the half that he sold, and so on and so forth. But imagine what that's going to contain by the time it gets into the hands of grubby schoolboys.
Mm.
And he kind of looked at me with like actual half disgust and half horror. And I said, because imagine they could probably, but you know, it could just be literally weeds from the garden sprayed with some, you know, sort of aerosols or something that would still make you high when you smoke them, but it's probably just chemical. It's not natural weed anymore. And he went, God, you're probably right. And I said, yeah, I think I am. I don't think they'd be giving sort of good grade of drugs to little schoolboys. And especially if the prefects, you know, the prefects are selling it to you, they'll have done something to it as well. And he went, well, that's just made up my mind. Thank you very much. I think I'm going to take up rowing.
Quite a difference, yeah. Just one extreme to the other.
Oh, okay, end of conversation.
Yeah, yeah. And so, I mean, I think I saw that you decided quite early on to let your kids know they were adopted. Was that like quite, you know, were you quite adamant about that? That was the right move to do, or did you get advice? Or
Yeah, that's what I was advised by the local authorities, the adoption team. They said that they think that it's good for children to know age appropriately, you know, all their lives. So, because my children were quite young when they came to me, they found out in the way of when they first saw a pregnant woman and they were sort of saying, look, you know, mummy, she has a fat tummy. And I said, no, she doesn't have a fat tummy. She has a baby in there. She's pregnant. There's a baby in her tummy. And they, oh, so, you know, well, we inside your tummy when we were babies. And I was, aha, this is my opportunity. So I sort of explained to them that they weren't inside my tummy, but they were inside their tummy mummy's tummy.
right.
But the tummy mummy wasn't able to look after them. So then I became their mummy to bring them up and bring them up. And of course, as they got older, that made more sense to them. I'm not sure if I think it was the best idea, but I don't have a better alternative. But I did sort of think it was sad that my children had to know at such a young age that they were different to other children, because that seems to be what, in my experience, all little children want to do, and even teenage. They just want to be the same as everyone else. They want to wear the same clothes, they want to eat the same foods, go to the same places, have the same interests, and they want to come into the world the same way as well, unless you've got some amazing story that ET found you or something. They kind of want the same birth experience as well. So it did mean that they knew from an early age that they were different.
Yeah, and I suppose is it difficult to have those questions with them at such a young age, like to sort of explain it if they sort of, you know, the questions are where did I come from? Is it, you know, can that be difficult at a young age to kind of explain?
Yeah, because then the next question, well, where is my tummy mummy? And why couldn't she look after me? And, you know, those questions are harder to answer. So, you know, you sort of think, well, it's all very well, but then, you know, what do you say? You know, because I didn't know where their tummy mummy was, and I didn't want to make up lies. And they were far too young to understand why she wasn't able to look after them. So it did kind of leave me in a difficult position. But equally, I think, you know, do you wait until they're 12 years old and suddenly that can cause an identity crisis, or 16 or 18 or 21, and then you've let someone live their whole life believing one thing and then you're telling them something else. So, you know, like I said, I don't know what the answer is, but I'm not sure that knowing straight off the bat is the answer either. Or we've got to have a lot of other answers in place as well.
Yeah. Do either of your kids show any sort of wanting to kind of like go into following your footsteps, going into the music industry? Or
my daughter definitely, she's definitely going to be a singer. She was going to be a model, but and she could definitely be an actress because she's a real drama queen. but she's a brilliant artist, and she's a great sportswoman. You know, she runs really well. She's got long legs. She's tall, much taller than me already still. And already, and she's good at high jump. So she just has a lot more options. I think I'd love to see her do something else, but obviously if this is what's going to make her happy. But it's it's an uncertain life, because unless you're extremely successful, it's difficult to really make a living in show business.
Yeah. I mean, obviously you were involved in the show, The X Factor, on Simon Cowell's team, during
Yeah.
The X Factor. I mean, how much of that, I suppose, is what is what we see on TV is factual, I suppose? Because I know, do you guys have like a real say of who goes through to the live shows, or are you kind of under pressure from the creative powers that be, producers, about who you let through? Or do you really get the final say about who goes through to the live shows?
Oh yeah, no, the judges really do decide.
Okay.
It's got to be who they believe in and who they think they can work well with, and yeah, I mean that's all 100% real.
Yeah, because they always just seemed a bit. There always seems like a big controversy, when it gets to the judges' houses. Like, how did that person not get through? And they got through. And there always seems to be that every year with the X Factor. There was someone that would get questioned about while they were allowed on, and someone else wasn't, I suppose.
Yeah. Oh yes, and Simon and I used to fight every year. I mean, I used to have tantrums, be in tears and everything because I'd be fighting for someone that he didn't think. But there was always someone that I really wanted that he did put through as well. And he'd sort of go, look, I'm the judge. You can't just take over, Sinitta. And I'd be, yes, but it's not fair. This person's so amazing. And he's like, we're only allowed 4. So what do you want me to do? And okay. But, you get quite passionate and riled up with the whole thing because, this sometimes it's not even just talent, that it'll be just something about a person or maybe their story that
Yeah.
you really fall for them and you really want it for them.
Mhm.
Um,
But was there a contestant that you really were championing over your sort of series with the X Factor? Was there someone that was really sort of satisfying when you saw them win or do well? Or
Ollie Murs,
Ollie
because
Murs, yeah.
he was amazing, but he had a difficult audition where he sort of forgot words, and at judges' houses he had a bit of a rough time. I think just his nerves got to him,
Mhm.
but you just think, come on, I just knew, look, if I was a teenage girl, he would be my pop idol.
Yes.
He's just got it. He's got the swag. He's cheeky. He's cute. He's handsome. He's funny. He can dance. He's soulful. I just thought he had everything, and it was like, look, he made a mistake, but he does have it. He has the X Factor. This is supposed to be called the X Factor, not I get all the words right when I sing my songs.
Mhm.
So we had a bit of battle about that, but secretly, I think Simon loved Ollie as well. Um,
Yeah.
but he just wanted to see, how far I would go to fight for him.
Mhm. That's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, that there was that famous X Factor series where you wore the leaf dress. What
Yeah.
what was the sort of idea of wearing that, and how did that all come about?
That was just, I mean, now, when you just think, what was I?
Oh
Because
yeah.
Simon and I, we've known each other for, gosh, like nearly 40 years. We've grown up together.
Mhm.
So sometimes I would sort of forget we were making a TV show, and it was just like Sinitta and Simon at home, like making each other laugh. And because the year before we'd been in Barbados for judges' houses, and I'd worn a gold bikini and a gold swimsuit.
Mhm.
I don't know if it's a swimsuit or a bikini, maybe it's a gold bikini, but we'd got lots of press about it. And we'd even
Mhm.
had, people saying, oh, Sinitta should be the next Bond girl and all this stuff. So Simon said, you're going to have to top that outfit. Now, previous to that, there'd never been any discussions about what I was wearing for judges' houses. It was turn up for judges' houses and do it. And I could have come, in a onesie, it wouldn't have mattered. There was no dress code. And and he's one to talk about dress code because he always wore the same thing every single day for about 5 years. So he just said, the gold bikini made such an impact last year. You've got to wear a bikini again this year. And I was like, no, I'm not wearing a bikini. And also, I'm not bikini ready. Like mentally, you've got to be ready to go on TV in front of 20 million people in a bikini. And it's not just about waxing and stuff. It's about mentally, like, okay, am I ready for this? And I hadn't thought we would buy a pool the year before. It made sense and I was ready. So I was like, no, I've brought this sweet little dress I'm going to wear. And he was like, boring. Come on, Sinitta. People are going to expect you to be in a bikini. And I was like, well, tough. People, can expect. Anyway, the next morning he had his drivers and one of the producers come to pick me up, to take me shopping to get a bikini. I said, I haven't even brought a bikini with me. So they sent someone to take me shopping to get a bikini. And I was like, unbelievable. I'm not going to let them bully me into wearing a
Mhm.
bikini. So I called a friend who lived out in LA, Paul Medford, and we went shopping together. And I said, I need something I need something that's going to make people talk, but I'm not wearing a bikini. I need to be covered. And as we were saying it, we were driving past this nursery, that British nursery with all these exotic plants and everything in there. And I thought, oh, let's go in there. And we kind of created the leaf dress. Like, do you have any big palm leaves or whatever that we could? Went back to the place. We bought 2 sets of everything so we could do a trial run the night before. And we managed to sort of stick everything on. And if I walk really slowly, that they would stay on for about 10 minutes if I'm lucky. And the next morning I said to Simon, oh, he's over breakfast. We were having a production meeting. And he said, oh, did you get the bikini? And I went, oh, yes, I got the bikini. And he went, fantastic, fantastic. And I said, but one thing, you guys, you're going to have to film it the first time and just film Simon's reaction, because the bikini is so minuscule. It's so skimpy. It might be too obscene to be seen on television. Like, you might have to put a blur over me because it's so skimpy. So of course they're all guys, all silly guys. So they're like salivating, like, really, wow, great. Well, good job, Sinitta. This is going to be fantastic. So I'm thinking, great, I'm going to get you. So then of course I said, nobody's allowed to see me till I step out. I step out. They film Simon, get the best reaction ever. I mean, he can't contain himself. He's in hysterics. And then they shot me again the second time round. Now, that whole thing was about me just wanting to wind Simon up and make Simon laugh. I didn't expect it to actually make the cut. I thought they'd sort of just do it. And it would be like our bloopers, you know what I mean? Like, we got something crazy reaction. Then I put on my dress and come out and we'd do the show as normal. And it ended up becoming the leaf dress, which I'm kind of now known as. It's like my most sort of famous
viral clip,
sort of thing.
Yeah, no, I can remember. The teenage me remembers the swimsuit and the leaf dress very well. The X Factor days. But yeah, I mean, obviously you talk about Simon and stuff. You obviously had that, you sort of had, it's not a secret, you had like a romance with him, and and you were involved with him. Have you, I guess, sort of post that, and are you still quite friendly and you have a close relationship?
Oh yes, we're still very good friends. We're godparents to each other's children.
Okay.
I went to see him in Barbados last Christmas after he broke his back.
Oh yeah.
And I needed to see him walking and moving for myself, because normally I would have flown out as soon as it happened, but because of COVID I couldn't. I was just very, very worried about him. So I managed to luckily get out before the curfew here, and got to see him. And he's, looking great. He's in great shape. He's actually in better shape now than before the accident. And he's healthy, and he's healing really well. He does these physiotherapy exercises that he has to do every day. And in a way, that's great, because he wasn't actually exercising every day before he had the accident. So like I said, he's fitter and healthier, and he's doing really well.
That's good. Recovering well then.
Yes, thank God.
Yeah, that's great. And I suppose, like, you talk about you being godparents to each other's kids. Are was it hard to see Simon, I suppose, move on and have kids at first, or were you always be able to be quite happy for him?
No, I mean, I did find it difficult at first, because I sort of loved Simon all my life. And, a big part of me thought that once we got older and more settled, that we would end up together, that we would get married and be together, because he'd always been in my life. So I did take it quite hard. And I think quite openly, quite publicly took it quite hard as well, probably much to his horror. But, we've come through it now, and, and we're great. And Eric is an absolute dream. We're really close, and it was lovely to get to spend time with him over Christmas. We played Baywatch, swimming around the boats and rescuing people. And he's an amazing swimmer. Excuse me, right. You kind of think a child that size, you don't expect to see them in the middle of the ocean swimming without armbands, but he'll just jump off the boat and swim, and he can swim all the way back to shore and back. And he's just lovely.
That's great. So, has having kids softened Simon up a little bit, do you think, or has he always had that soft side to him?
He always had that soft side to him, which is what I would be trying to explain to people, because people would go, but why do you like Simon so much? He's so nasty, so mean.
Yeah.
And I would be like, no, but he really isn't. If anything, that's a sort of TV persona. And it's more out of the fact that if someone's a really bad singer, he can't hide it on his face, or it does give him the giggles, or he says something sarcastic. That's his real personality, but he's not actually mean. But Eric, I think, has helped allow him to show that side of himself, because you know what guys are like. I think there's that James Bond in every man that he's seen growing up, so they sort of don't like to show their emotions, and they want to be seen as being sort of cool on TV and that kind of thing. And I think having Eric's let him sort of drop that guard, but he was always a big softy underneath.
Yeah, that's great. Well, it's nice to hear that Simon's recovering and doing well, and nice to know that you're doing well as well. You're doing good at the minute. You're doing good.
Doing really, really well.
Yeah.
I'm on my sort of health tip now, and I did exercise, got up this morning early, 1st of March. So I've done like my exercise and everything before meeting with you. And, I'm on track now. I'm on track.
Yeah.
I want to be an example as well. I want to be example to others, because, my life is not bad. I'm not suffering. I'm not ill. My children are well. My mother's healthy. Like, everything is actually really good. So, it's a mindset, isn't it? It's looking at how grateful you are and how lucky you are, rather than, it's almost childish to say, oh, well, I'm so bored. It's like, everybody's fed up,
Yeah. And you itching to get back out and perform?
Yes.
Yeah.
I am. I'm ready to get back out there. But I'm going to use the rest of the time to actually train, because you wouldn't normally have this opportunity to actually improve your skills. So I'm going to be doing some vocal classes and some online dance. So you can do everything online now, dance lessons and everything. So hopefully I'm going to be, good. There's a few things in the pipeline that I'm not allowed to reveal yet. Plus I'm, developing new programs. I've created a lot of shows, and I've got a YouTube channel where I'm starting to put some content on. Some of it is Christian content, where I've been reading Battlefields of the Mind, Joyce Meyer's book.
Oh, she's great.
Also, 100 Days of Favor, Joseph Prince's book, for people who need sort of daily inspiration. But then also just some entertainment content with young artists that I'm working with. So I'm just trying to be creative and, keep doing stuff.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to seeing, the projects that you've got coming up, and I'm going to have to come and see you perform as soon as you're back out there doing your thing.
Yes, I would love you to. You have to let me know when you're coming, so we can meet afterwards.
Oh, that would be fantastic.
Yeah,
well, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today, Sinitta. You look well, you look great, and look forward to seeing you, doing your thing.
Thank you so much. And
Thank you.
say bye to Scarlett as well. Say bye.
Bye, Scarlett.